Hello. In this video, we're going to be doing a Q&A with someone who took the uniform bar exam specifically in New York, and she successfully worked through their admission requirements. So here today with me, I have Sunita, who's going to be answering some questions for us. So my first question for you is, we know New York is a uniform state, so you took the uniform bar exam, or that is one of their requirements. But do they have any sort of extra specific requirements to get licensed there that you have to work through?
Yes, they do. And so there are a couple of components that we need to consider. So one of them is the New York Law course, which you have to take. It's an online course. And then after you've finished taking that course, you have to take a New York Law exam. So that's one part of it. And then the other part of it is actually doing a 50-hour pro bono. They have a requirement that you can certify that you've done 50 hours of pro bono work. So those are the two other additional components.
Okay, so that's good to know. Getting to the course part, are these lectures something that would be live or pre-recorded, or what does the course really consist of?
So the lectures are pre-recorded, and what you have access to is all the lectures. I believe it's in your Burley account, and you can access them as many times as you want. They are pre-recorded, but what happens is during the lecture, once you listen to a lecture, you have to answer questions at the end of the lecture. So if you get a question wrong, for example, you would have to listen to the lecture again to find the right answer, and then move on to the next course. One thing I would say is that it actually does help sometimes to get it wrong, because suddenly you find yourself in a different state of mind when you're listening to the lecture the second time round. And getting things wrong is actually quite helpful because you'll remember it.
Right. That's good. That I think is the silver lining of sometimes having to sit through something a second time. So I think I agree with you. That's good. So there are these questions that you have to answer along the way, I think, which makes sense. Is there any other sort of special rules or requirements of someone sitting through the course that they should know about?
So you can take the course 1 year before or any time after the date you first set the UBE. One thing you have to remember is that you have to submit a complete application to the courts within 3 years of the UBE exam. So once you've taken the UBE exam, your 3 years clock starts ticking.
Okay, I see. So there is this timeliness component, so to speak. And then just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, is it true that you must sit through and complete the course prior to your ability to taking the New York Law exam, or do they not care what order you do it in?
You have to take the course before you take the New York Law exam.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. So the exam's not even available to you until the course is successfully completed. Okay.
Exactly.
So then what does the New York Law exam actually test? And you don't have to obviously give us specific questions, but are there specific subjects that are maybe different than the other bar exam, or what can people expect?
So what it actually tests are all the components of the UBE exam. So administrative law, business relationships, civil procedure, the whole list that you would be studying for the UBE. But what it really focuses on is the important aspects of the New York law. So the specific New York law that might be slightly different or nuanced. They will focus on those aspects within those subjects.
Okay, I see. So it's truly testing your ability to know New York law, since you're trying to get licensed in that state. So that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So what types of questions are on this exam? Like multiple choice? Are they essay? What can people expect in that regard?
So you get 50 questions, and you have 2 hours to complete it, and they're multiple choice. So you have a choice of 4, very similar to like the UBE. So yes.
Okay, great. And is this exam, I mean, I know we're kind of in some different times here with COVID, but that aside, is this usually administered in person or is this something people can take online?
It's actually something you can take online, and that this is the first time I'd ever taken an exam online where you're in your own space. So it was a little strange to do that, but yes, it's all you can just do it online.
That's great. That's great. So is this then the same as the bar exam where you can't have any materials or it's closed book, or do they allow you to have your materials handy if you want?
So it's open book, and the one thing that I would say is, and they make it a big point of this, is that you can't search electronically. So that would be a violation of the rules. So when you have your materials, and what I did was I just created a file with dividers for the relevant sections. And then it would make it easier for me to find what I was looking for. But you're not allowed to search electronically. That's forbidden.
I see. Okay, so that is kind of nice. You can still rely on those materials, but you need to be organized, it sounds like, because it's a timed test. Okay.
Exactly.
So just a few more questions. How frequently is this exam offered?
So this exam is offered 4 times a year. It's September, December, March, and June. You have to pay a fee, I think, of $27. And they have a registration deadline. So that's something to be aware of.
Okay, great. And what's considered passing to be able to put this behind you?
Right. You have to get 60%.
Oh, okay.
So that's 30 out of 50 questions correct. And you get the results within 2 weeks. The email actually just says that you passed, so you don't actually know what your score is.
Perfect. So my last question, now that you've gone through this, any advice you wish you would have had that you can maybe pass along to someone that's moving through this process themselves?
I think definitely for the New York law exam and the New York law course, just stay organized. I think organization is actually the key to a lot of this. And also don't forget the 50-hour pro bono. That's something that can easily slip away, and then suddenly you find you've got to find a place that will take you on to do the 50 hours. So I would make sure that you get organized and get that set up as soon as you can. I think otherwise, really, the questions themselves are relatively easy. I think once you get an understanding, you read through the sections and you watch the lectures, I think it's not too difficult as long as you're organized. And I think that's really, really the highlight here that I would advise.
That's a great advice. And I mean, I feel like there's so much that happens during the bar prep and admission process generally, not even in New York, but to register for the UBE and to prepare for it and all these other things that, I mean, being organized just eliminates things falling through the cracks. And it sounds like this process is very doable.
Yes.
It's just like you said, you need to stay on top of it. That way you get it done and there's nothing really holding up the process. So that's great advice. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and answering our questions. I think our viewers are going to find it very helpful so that they can make sure they're prepared for getting licensed. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Megan.